Hello, good morning, good evening, everyone. Hello and good evening, everyone. If anyone can hear me, good evening.
Good evening, Doc.
Yeah, let's have all the participants settle and ready for the start of the session. We are a bit late. I see we are 12. We need to be around 25 or even close to that at this time. We are now 13. Do we start? Can everyone hear me? I only see Esther Cherono, who is appears to be responding. Let's all put our mics on so that we can have a meeting before we start, so that we can all agree that we are there. Our mics are okay, they are working, and that we are ready to start. Esther, can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. I can hear you.
Yeah, let also the others to probably maybe they left their mics on, their gadgets on, and they left. We need to see everybody in so that we can start.
Present, teacher.
Very good.
Yes,
Present.
we can hear you very well.
Okay, I think we will start immediately. The rest will join us on the way. I see we are now 15. I'm sure the number will increase as we proceed. So I want to share my slides so that we are able to start the class. Allow me to retrieve my documents. Yeah, are we there, all of us? Can we be able to see the slide?
Yes.
Okay, Thank you so much. Maybe we can start by a background of what we covered last time. And first of all, I want to apologize. We have started late. We ought to have started the class at 5:30, but something delayed me on the way. I was coming from work. I had to pass through an office where we have taken some time. And all in all, we have started the class, and I'm sure we'll be able to cover what had been scheduled. We probably may have a slight extension of time from 7:30, but definitely we will not go beyond 8. So last week, we were able to, I was actually attending the classes that you did with Kent Abisai. He did the introduction to monitoring and evaluation, where he looked at some of those terms that we shall be using in monitoring and evaluation, and looked also at the cycle of monitoring and evaluation. But most importantly, and that was where I was mostly interested in, is where you did the result chain by explaining with the very good examples about the relationship between inputs, the activities, the outputs, the outcome, and the impact, probably the goal, and also the objectives. That's what we call a result chain that are very important or very key when it comes to developing the what we are calling the result framework. So about the monitoring and evaluation result chain, rather monitoring and evaluation cycle, that one pretty much resembles the project cycle, because much of what is done in monitoring and evaluation will also go hand in hand with the cycle of the project. And that's why I was a bit amused when somebody asked about the project initiation and how it is related to the monitoring cycle. And actually, what I almost jumped in to say that initiation, or rather the project cycle, is the monitoring and evaluation is part of the project cycle. So it has to be embedded in the initiation process, so that monitoring begins immediately the project is initiated, all the way to the project closure. And also evaluation will be done periodically as the project progresses. So therefore, monitoring and evaluation and the project cycle, they go hand in hand. And that's why sometimes you may find that as you proceed with the monitoring and evaluation, sometimes you may get a tendency of getting confused on whether you are doing project management or whether you are doing monitoring and evaluation. And therefore, I just decided to say that at the beginning, so that for those who have done project management, because I noted that we have one of our participants who have done project management, you don't get lost when we talk about some of these cycles. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I want to go straight now to the developing monitoring and evaluation framework. And like I said, we'll be using the terms, most of those terms that you were given by Bisai in the last presentation that he had. So our subtopics, we have components of an M&E framework. You'll be able to see what constitutes of an M&E framework. You'll be developing indicators. This will be the second subtopic. We look at how we develop indicators, of course, say what indicators are, and probably also have a category of quantitative indicators and also the qualitative indicators. And at the same time, our last three, we'll be looking at linking indicators to goals, or in other words, we'll try to see when you are developing an indicator, how do you link that indicator with the program goals or the impact that you intend to make in a particular intervention. So those are the topics. Today, we will cover components of an M&E framework. It's quite a bit. And then probably on Friday, we will look at developing indicators and also look at linking indicators to goals. So what are our outcomes, our intended outcomes? So we are saying that by the end of this session, participants should be able to, one, of course, you should be able to describe the key components of an M&E framework. That should be by the end of today's session. Also, you should be able to develop clear and measurable quantitative and qualitative indicators. Probably that one will be tomorrow. No, not tomorrow, but on Friday. And also link indicators logically to goals, outcomes, and also outputs. But by the end of today's session, that one of linking indicators to outcomes and outputs, we may probably be able to do that. And lastly, we should be able to apply monitoring and evaluation frameworks in our institutions. So here I'm giving an example of schools, colleges, and education programs. I'm also cognizant of that we have quite a number of professionals, a number of careers here. And therefore, as we discuss, we shall be trying to embrace everyone according to their career. So therefore, those are our expectations, the outcomes, the changes that we want to experience by the time we are through with this session. So I want to make an introduction of my presentation. One, we are saying that monitoring and evaluation framework is a structured plan, right? Structured plan that guides how programs, policies, and institutional activities are monitored and how they are evaluated. So therefore, we are saying that when you have a monitoring and evaluation framework, it is a structured way of actually guiding or directing how policies are implemented, how activities are monitored, and how they are evaluated over the time. So, and this is why this session, or by the end of this session, we should have practical skills to design and use M&E framework so that we are able to focus here on the key components. So like I said, we will be looking at the key components and we are able to develop appropriate indicators and at the same time align these indicators to our institutional and sectoral goals. So what do we want to achieve? Remember, every institution, they have their intended outcomes, or rather, you have the vision, there is the mission of every institution, all that. We can be able to put that in a many framework. If you have, for example, the what we call the strategic plan of an institution or an organization, for us to be able to follow whether we are achieving the intended objectives, the intended goals, the impact that we want to make in that particular institution. We can structure that in a monitoring and evaluation framework where we have the goals stated, we have the impact that we want to make, we have the outcomes for the short term, we have the outputs, the immediate, and we have the activities that we shall be undertaking, and also the resources in terms of inputs that we shall be requiring for us to be able to achieve the outcomes or the goals that we have intended for that particular organization. Remember, we can also narrow down from the broader perspective of the strategic plan and then move to or narrow down to interventions. So every intervention that probably an institution or an organization will undertake, they would also probably have to come up with an M&E framework to track the progress of that particular intervention. So besides having the broader strategic plan of an institution, you still can narrow down to having what we are calling interventions for particular areas. Like what Kent talked about last time, he gave so many examples, like an intervention on security, this deterioration of security in a certain area, and there is need for intervention to improve the security. That can be a project where you can have a monitoring and evaluation framework for that particular intervention. So from the introductions, we move to the understanding an M&E framework. Now, we are now getting into the heat of things. When we are talking about the M&E framework, what is it all about? And we are saying it's a result-based planning and management tool that outlines or that focuses on what an institution or program aims to achieve. And that's what I was saying about intervention or strategic plan. What do you, as an institution, as an organization, aim to achieve? How success will be measured? You do not just want to say that you want to achieve this. You also want to actually have a mechanism of measuring success or achievements that shall have been acquired. But also, for the M&E framework, for it to be result-based, we also need to have data collection. So remember somewhere during the introduction, somebody mentioned about the importance of monitoring and evaluation. And one of them was decision-making based on data evidence. So therefore, for an M&E to work effectively, there must be data collection. So we must focus on data collection. Then we also need to focus on who will collect the data and how often. So you see, in monitoring and evaluation, this is two-tier word, monitoring, and we have evaluation. And we are saying monitoring being continuous from the start of the project all the way to the closure. But we have evaluation that has to be done periodically. I remember Abisai talked about the baseline, even before the program or project has started. He talked about the midline, just evaluating the midterm results, and then the midterm results. That is, you probably can do the midterm results and also do an ex post evaluation long after the program has, or after the project has ended. Another evaluation can still be done to measure the sustainability of the intervention. And therefore, that aspect of that cycle in a program or in a project is what is requiring that you determine who collects the data and how often is that data collected during the intervention cycle. And also how findings will be utilized. So of course, we have also the reporting of these findings in monitoring and evaluation. There will be a report. I remember Kent talking about monitoring and evaluation. There's also the aspect or the element of reporting. There's also the element of lessons learned. Therefore, that's where we must have findings that shall be reported and how those findings shall be utilized so that the monitoring and evaluation process can become significant in the intervention. So monitoring and evaluation frameworks, like I've said, if you look at what we have discussed when in this understanding of an M&E framework, is basically important because we are talking about tracking for areas such as access. If, for example, in your education, you are tracking access, it can be used in tracking retention. If those who are in education, tracking quality of learning, tracking equity. Those who are in other institutions, tracking governance, tracking institutional effectiveness. And that is why when we talk about understanding an M&E framework, we should understand it from the perspective of what this M&E framework is intended to do. So moving on, and I want first of all to stop there and ask whether we are together. Can anyone hear me so that I don't speak to myself? Maybe you can activate your mic so that we can I can assess whether we are together. Ladies and gentlemen, tuko pamoja.
Hello, Daktari.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
How are you, Daktari?
Okay, call me by Steve. I can hear you.
How are you, Dr. Steve?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm Kweyu.
Yes.
Maybe if I may ask this question, so basing on what you've already covered.
Yes.
Can I, in a school setup, can I say that this thing we call TPAD or performance contracting, is it an example of an MA?
I'm monitoring, yes, it is. It is an online monitoring and evaluation tool that has
TPAD
been
and
used
the
by
performance
TSC for a
contracting.
long time. Yes.
So both the TPAD and the performance contracting for the head of department, head of institution.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yeah, those are monitoring and evaluation tools online.
Mm.
So you do it online.
Yes, it is done online.
Exactly. Maybe somebody else from another sector can also give us an example of monitoring and evaluation that is done in their sector. You see, those who are in education, when you give an assessment to a class, can we classify that one as also as monitoring and evaluation?
Hello. It
Yes.
We want to make it interactive. So is it monitoring and evaluation?
Yes.
Let's bring the aspect of monitoring here. Where is monitoring in assessment, or rather in a class or in a school setup? Looking at it from evaluation, or rather from tests and scores. When is it monitoring? When is it evaluation?
Hello.
Yes, remember I have said that evaluation is periodical. It's after some time, but monitoring is continuous. So when is it monitoring? When is it evaluation?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
I think we can say monitoring in a classroom can be done after the end of the topic or even a subtopic to assess if whatever you have given the learners has actually gotten to them. So we can do monitoring in that. And then at the end, when we bring in maybe at the end of the month, or sometimes we do midterm exams, we can bring in the aspect of evaluation.
All of us, do we agree that
Yes.
when we give homework, when we give after lesson assignment, that could be equated to monitoring in this case?
Yeah.
When you
Yes.
do a midterm assessment, end-term assessment, do you call that evaluation? Very well.
Yes.
Very well, very well. So we are together. That is in an education sector, but we are saying that is just for the learning process, but you can also have monitoring and evaluation in other interventions in a learning institution. For example, I've mentioned about retention. You want to measure retention. I know quite a number of schools this time when they were admitting grade 10, they had a serious issue, and especially day schools, in the number of admissions. Some of them had very low admissions. Maybe you can probably start an intervention and to assess why there was that kind of low admission of grade 10 in your institution, and come up with an intervention. And that intervention, you would want to monitor how it is working. So probably you'd have to consider some of these things that we are discussing. Let's have somebody else from another sector to bring in the aspect of monitoring and evaluation that they do on a day-to-day basis. We had somebody from security, interior. We had somebody who have done project management. Do we have such here, or do we proceed?
Well, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Now, I'm thinking of I'm from the Teacher Service Commission.
Yes.
And we have TIMIS, Teacher Information Management System.
Yes.
Where we track enrollment in various institutions.
Yes.
And the staffing, that is
Yes.
where we have put our teachers. And we watch on the trades on enrollment,
Yes.
which is now going to determine where we are going to take our teachers.
Yes.
So if we look at the system and see that enrollment is rising in a particular institution, then that leads our decision to provide more teachers in that area.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very well. You can see we have talked about data collection, right? We have talked about how often is that data collected and how the findings will be utilized. So you see from the team is you are able to collect the data on where we have gaps, and you're able to address those gaps based on the data finding. You're able to make decisions. So
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
actually the understanding that we need to have on monitoring and evaluation framework. Okay. We are together, we move on. If you're able to switch on your mics, I have no problem so long as you maintain a silent background so that we are able to interact. Let's move on to those components now, the components of M&E framework. And they are just familiar. We are just familiar with this. Goals and objectives is one of those components that we're talking about. We have mentioned about them. We will see what is a goal. We will see what is an objective. Another component, very important, is the result chain. I talked about result chain when Abisai was explaining about inputs, activities, outputs, outcomes, impact. All that, that's now what constitutes of a result chain. And the result chain plays very well when you talk about the theory of change. And theory of change was designed by Carl Weiss in the 1990s. And it has played a very significant role in project interventions where you want to bring about a certain change. Maybe a situation has deteriorated and you want to reverse or you want to improve the situation. That change that you want to bring about will be brought about by this result chain for the logical model of activities based on the result chain. Then another component is the indicators. Mentioned about indicators. In monitoring and evaluation, you'll not talk of any intervention without mentioning indicators. You've heard of key performance indicators. You've heard about key indicators, sub-indicators, and you got this from the introduction. And we still have more details about the indicators, about their characteristics and so on and so forth. I'm sure there was mention of baselines and targets. When you talk about the baselines, we talk about the targets. Here we will talk about more about it, about the baselines and the targets. Then we have data collection methods and the tools that we shall be using in data collection. We have in our framework, also M&E framework, we also have the roles and responsibilities, who does what and when. And then we also have the data use and also reporting. All this constitutes of what we are calling the M&E framework. I want to look at this each at a time. And I want to say this. An M&E component constitutes of an effective M&E framework. And this framework consists of interrelated components that work together to guide implementation and assessment. So all these components that we are referring to here, they are basically meant to guide the implementation. So at every stage, you're able to look at the framework and you are able to know what is to be implemented and guided clearly on how it will be implemented and who should implement it, and of course, when. And therefore, when you have done the implementation, or as you proceed with the implementation process, we have talked about monitoring, which is a continuous process of assessment. So therefore, our monitoring and evaluation framework should guide us on the process of implementation, but at the same time, guide us on the process of assessment. Those two things must go together. As you implement, you are assessing. And we are saying assessing is equivalent to monitoring. But periodically, we shall be requiring to do an in-depth evaluation. An in-depth evaluation so that will help us now to probably track more details and assess whether we are on track or whether the progress is as it was intended. And we have talked about goals and objectives. And when we talk about goals, goals define the long-term change in a program or in an institution that we seek to achieve long-term. You see, we are talking about long-term. Sometimes goals and impacts are interchangeable, because impact is that also that long-term change. Long-term change. An impact after the intervention is something that lasts, a change that is going to last for some time. If, for example, you're talking about improving security, you are looking for an improved security. That's the goal. What is the impact? The impact is that harmony, that tranquility that will persist long after the project has been closed. That is what we call an impact, and it's actually what was intended by the intervention. Therefore, that's why goals and impacts sometimes go hand in hand. Then we have the objectives. We have talked about the objectives, and I want us to distinguish very clearly about objectives and goals here. You know, what will be accomplished within a defined period. So as you do the improvement of security, objectives, there could be several objectives that you want to achieve towards achieving the broader goal or towards acquiring the impact that you intended to. And therefore, objectives are smaller goals, if you use that word for that matter. Smaller goals that leads to the bigger goals. So just like when you go to a class, you have your objectives. That's what we these days you call outcomes. Those immediate results that you get after the lesson, but cumulatively, you'll have several lessons with several outcomes and to achieve a certain goal. So therefore, goals and objectives, one of them is narrow, another one is broader. Result chain, but maybe I can give an example of a goal and an objective. One, we would say, if, for example, you are talking about in a school setup, you want to improve quality of secondary education. That's a national goal, improve quality of secondary education. So for us to improve quality of secondary education, one of the objectives we could have is to increase the KCSE mean score by the end of, say, 3 years. So by the end of 3 years, we want to improve the performance in KCSE. When we increase the performance in KCSE for the last 3 years, definitely we are now gearing towards acquiring our broader objective of having an improved quality of secondary education. So that's actually an example. We can probably get others from other sector. Somebody has talked about, okay, in TSC, you are still in education sector. I was looking for somebody in project management, and the person in project management, I had already who is in project management, would be very instrumental in this class because I want to use you a bit. Somebody is in interior. I also want to use you a bit. So where are you? The gentleman in interior, the Ministry of Interior. Okay, if they are not allowed, we can proceed. Let's go to the result chain. What is this that we are calling the result chain? I've just alluded to what the result chain is, but I want to say that result chain explains the logical flow. Logical flow. A reasonable flow, a logical flow of impacts, and therefore it starts from the intervention itself, where you must employ some resources, which resources will be used in certain activities, in carrying out certain activities. I want to believe I can be heard. Yeah. Yeah, I'm audible. Good. Activities which will be undertaken, so that immediately after those activities, very well, I see your that. After the activities, we are able to get outputs, and these outputs will probably again lead to outcomes, and then the outcomes will lead to what we are calling the impact or the goals that we want to achieve. If you look at that flow, you'll see some logical sequence. Inputs leading to activities, activities leading to outputs, outputs leading to outcomes, outcomes leading to impact. So therefore, we see that logical flow. I'll give an example here of a result chain, whereby if you want to improve education standards or quality of education, what inputs do you require? You probably require qualified teachers. You require to have textbooks, distribute enough textbook, and probably do funding, fund the education process. Once you have qualified teachers, you have textbooks, you have the funds. I'm just giving the three as the inputs so that you understand what we mean by inputs. Then you have the activities, and what will you do to these teachers? Maybe you do, to improve their quality, you do teacher training. There will be remedial lessons because you have funds, you have textbooks. Those are some of the activities that probably you'll be undertaking. Good quality teachers through teacher training. You probably have remedial lessons. You can have other activities like having sessions that are geared toward practical activities, trips, that is experiential learning by the learners, bringing in what you may call the mentor or resource persons. Those are activities that probably will be done using the funds that you have. You have textbooks, therefore you increase contact hours, and with the remedial lessons and so on and so forth. Those are activities. Then once you have done all these activities, what do you expect to come out of that? Those activities? You'll have trained teachers, well-qualified teachers. That's an output. And probably you can say, you probably here could state an output in terms of measurable results. Like when you say you have trained teachers, you probably would want to say, how many did you train? You have remedial classes conducted, how many in a week, and so on and so forth. So those will be your outputs. Your outcomes, probably the immediate results, is that because of that enhanced teaching, enhanced contact hours, you'll have improved quality of teaching, and of course, you may have enhanced learner performance. So those ones will be your immediate results. How do you measure the improved teaching quality? Probably through assessment. You may have observations, lesson observations. I am sure there are those lesson observations that are done by the quality assurance officers, lesson observations that are done by peer teachers, and so on and so forth. The observations that will be made is what will give us a direction on whether we have improved teaching quality. Learner performance, we do assessments, we do test scores, and from the test scores immediately, or what you call the random assessment tests, that one probably could give you a direction as to whether the learner performance has improved. That will be an outcome. The impact that probably you intend to achieve is the enhanced quality of education, and of course, learner success. Therefore, our result chain is that sequence of inputs, activities, and what we are calling outputs, outcomes, then the impacts. Then we have indicators. The indicators. Now, when you talk about indicators, here we are talking about measurable signs that show progress towards achieving results at each level of the result chain. I am seeing somebody who is asking, saying for the ongoing what? It's good to also hear what you are saying. Somebody is talking about the ongoing evaluation is exam monitoring is checking learners' performance over a period of time. For the ongoing public participation on selling, auctioning Safaricom, where does M&E component come in? Who is this? Agnes. Agnes Wamuge, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes. What is your idea towards this auctioning of Safaricom shares? Where is monitoring and evaluation? What is happening? Is it public participation or monitoring and evaluation?
No, I just needed a clarification. We have in the whole process, currently have public participation ongoing, the Safaricom shares.
Now,
So I was trying to look into it, and I was wondering, we have goals definitely. We have objectives.
Yes.
But how do we check the indicators and the result chain? Because the goals is there for the citizen to participate and have the views. of the
Yes.
selling of Safaricom shares. Then again, objective. Okay, objective.
It's good that now you are thinking broadly, because now you are looking at everything around you, everything that is happening. You are now trying to inject monitoring and evaluation, looking at everything now and with the perspective of monitoring and evaluation, isn't it?
True.
Yeah, I would like we proceed, and then at the point where we shall be we'll be doing the frameworks. Let's now try and capture that at that point. Am I right? Yeah, let's look at that at the point where we shall be. In fact, I think immediately after this, we look at the frameworks. We just cannot go straight away to the frameworks before we have seen these components and understood them very well. And then we shall be able to see where your public participation may come in, or how we can employ monitoring and evaluation in the public participation. So indicators, I was saying that these are signs. It's a sign. It tells us whether we are achieving whatever we had intended to achieve in all the levels in the result chain. If it is input, it tells us these inputs. How do we know that we have applied the right input or the intended input? Are they there? If you are talking about an input like quality teachers, what shall we be looking at when, for a quality teacher? Textbooks, what shall we be looking at in textbooks? If it is in terms of activities, if you say you are training the teachers, what shall we be looking at for for training of teachers? There is the indicator. There is that measure, that sign that training is being done. That sign that there is an output. That sign there is this outcome, and that sign that there is this impact. So indicators are across all the result chain levels. They are across all the result chain levels. And we shall see that all the result chain levels must have indicators so that we are able to be guided. And that's why we called it a guide, that will help us to implement, follow the implementation process, and at the same time, be able to carry out an assessment. Baselines and targets. What are baselines? Now, when you talk about baselines is the starting value. It is the starting value. It is the beginning before intervention, the situation before the intervention. You realize that somebody asked about the project initiation. What creates that initiation of a project? Probably a problem. There is a problem. Like you see, you are talking about selling Safaricom share. Somebody who came up with that idea, or when that idea was born, of selling Safaricom shares by the government, somebody saw an opportunity, and this opportunity was out of a certain problem. There was a gap and an opportunity. Now, for this gap to be filled, there is need for an intervention. And what was the intervention? Selling or auctioning the Safaricom shares to get some resources. Now, that situation that somebody observed, that gap that somebody observed, that situation of areas that these resources will be utilized. Maybe it was, if it is going to infrastructure, let's say the road infrastructure. Somebody identified that there is a serious problem of traffic jams along Nairobi-Nakuru highway. How do we plug this gap? this is the situation. Traffic for you to get from Nairobi to Eldoret, for example, or to Nakuru, instead of say 3 hours, it is taking you 6 hours. That is the problem. That is the baseline. The baseline is that it is taking too long, like say 6 hours, to get to Nairobi. Now, what is the intervention? Widen the roads. Once the roads have been widened, then we shall come and say, it used to take us 6 hours to go to Nakuru. Now we have widened the roads, it's a dual carriage. What time is it taking now to get to Nakuru? 2 hours. So baseline is therefore important because it helps us to have a reference point for tracking progress. It helps us to have a reference point for tracking progress. So baseline is a situation before intervention. You are saying that we do not have admission for Form 1s this time, or rather not Form 1s, but grade 10. You used to admit 150. This time, grade 10, you have admitted only 30. So that is the situation now. You want to do an intervention so that in 3 years' time, you improve that admission or that transition by say 80%, from 30 to around say 120. You used to admit 150, you at least need 120. So your baseline is the situation before intervention. Because for you to get now to the 120 you want to achieve, you must do some ABCD activities, some intervention, some activities that will help you to raise that admission to 120. Once you have hit the time frame that you had intended to do this intervention, you now assess, it is now 3 years, I'm able to admit 100 against what was intended 120. But before this intervention, I had only 30. So 30 is the reference point, the baseline. And therefore, you would say that I have a progress, there's an improvement from 30 to 100, though the target was baseline, the target was 120. And that's why I have also explained what we mean by targets. Targets are the expected levels of performance, of course, within a specified time frame. I want to achieve this by the end of this period of time. We also see how we set targets, how we set baselines, because they also have to be realistic. They also have to be achievable, and so on and so forth. Then we have our data collection methods and tools. And when you talk about data collection methods and tools, we talk about the type of data that we require. We have what we call qualitative and we have quantitative data that will be very significant when it comes to data collection methods and tools. So the type of data you want to have, and both of them, they must be employed in an effective monitoring and evaluation framework. We also have the tools that we use to collect data. We have what we call surveys. You can do a survey, you can have an online survey. We have we can have questionnaires. We can have things like the offline questionnaires. We can even have the Google Docs and so on and so forth that we hope us to carry out a survey. We have tests. Tests is also an example of a data collection method. you mentioned about giving tests in schools. And by so doing, you are trying to assess the achievement levels. And therefore, tests are also methods of data collection. Interviews, you can have interviews, face-to-face interview. You can make a call, that's the phone calls, and so on and so forth. That's interviews. You can also have the focus group discussions. You want to acquire a particular data on a certain intervention, and therefore you may have to look at a group of people who have information, who have knowledge on that particular aspect, bring them together, let them hold a discussion, of course, as you guide them. And then from the discussion, you're able to pick data, you're able to pick information that will help you in your monitoring and evaluation. And therefore, these focus group discussions, you probably could bring a team of doctors if you are probably, your intervention is on health issues. If you could bring a group of security officers, if your intervention is on a security issue, you could bring a group of teachers, focus group discussions can also help in data collection. Then we also have observations. You can have an observation list or a checklist of things that you want to observe. And therefore, when you go to the field, you are able to, or rather, you go to the area that you are carrying out your intervention. You have a checklist of what you want to observe. If it is in a class or rather in a school situation setup, you may want to see how many teachers there are. You go and check. If there are 5 teachers, you tick the number of teachers. If you how many lessons, you tick. How many? What is the duration of a lesson? You tick. All that information that may be relevant to you in terms of that intervention or in terms of assessing or monitoring that intervention. You may have a checklist of all that list that you want to check to find out and tick on what your findings or what you are observing. So data collection methods, I've talked about surveys, I've talked about tests, I've talked about interviews, I've talked about focus group discussions, that's the FGDs, and of course, the observations. We'll look at this in more details when we look at data collection, which will be our last subtopic in this module. Then we have laws and responsibilities. Laws and responsibilities. Who is going to collect the data? Who is going to do the data analysis? Who is going to do the reporting? And who is going to do the dissemination? So that's what we called the responsibilities. This one should be clear in an M&E framework. For example, you are probably talking about an education setup. Who is going to do the data collection? If it is teacher so-and-so, will be doing the data collection. If it is subject reports, who is going to give the subject reports? It is probably the HODs. If it is the overseeing of the whole process, who is going to oversee or supervise the whole process? Probably the deputy principal, probably the principal. Those are responsibilities. Then data use and reporting, also a very important component. Who defines or which defines how data will be analyzed and how it will be reported, and even how that data shall be utilized. Remember, we said the data that we obtain, the reports that we obtain from monitoring and evaluation. The most important thing is, of course, to help us in decision making. All right. It will also help us in improving planning. And also it is important because it brings the aspect of accountability and also learning. Maybe at this point, before we move to the next point of discussion, I would like us to remind ourselves, what have we said about the use of data and reporting in monitoring and evaluation? Let's have responses. How can we use reports on monitoring and evaluation? I've just mentioned them. I want us to recap quickly before we move to the next area of discussion. I want to assess whether we are together and whether we are all in class. As I take a sip of water, I see somebody showing Nikidori. I see Isaac. We are together. Very good, Isaac. Somebody else. We have Philomen. We have Janet. We have Asugo. Asugo, you are there. Who else? I see Paul Kweyu Siudu raising up the hand. Kweyu, what's your point?
Oh, we are together.
We are together.
Mm.
Kweyu, can you give us one of the use in a monitoring and evaluation report? How can we use a monitoring and evaluation report?
You can use
to
improve on planning.
Planning, yes, that's good.
You may have planned earlier, but it never went as you expected. So you can use the data and the reporting to plan well.
To plan better, yeah. Of course, you have the data, you have the information, so you now have, we call it a feedback loop. Where you get data, you get a report on what has been done, and where there was gaps or where there were failures, you are able to use an M&E report to improve on that new intervention. So you loop the success from an M&E report to improve on a subsequent intervention. So better planning. And also that is similar to saying making better decisions. Decisions that are data-driven, isn't it? See your query?
Yes.
And Daktari. Hello.
Hello. Proceed, Philomen. Is it Philomen?
Daktari, it's Paul.
It's Paul.
Can I also say that data use and reporting?
Yes.
Can I also say that it's a track to see if you are achieving the goals you could have set at the start of the intervention?
Yes. Yes. That's true. Somebody else?
Sorry, this is Samuel Amroy.
Yes.
Now, I can say the use of an M&E data in reporting is that on there is somebody who said he's working on Teacher Service Commission, and he was mentioning something of that is teams.
Yes.
So this is where teachers are balanced within the schools to ensure that
Yes.
no school has more teachers than the other.
And the other.
So here, when the Teacher Service Commission is making a decision, they look
Yes.
at these teams. So one of the use of M&E data in reporting is that it is evidence-based.
Yes, evidence-based.
Evidence-based. So the Teacher Service Commission cannot post a teacher to a school without ascertaining whether that school needs a teacher or not.
Very well.
And lastly, it also helps in transparency. Probably somebody can influence so many teachers to be posted to one school.
Yes.
So if that data is going to be used properly, then there will be some transparency on how teachers are being posted to schools or across a region. Thank you.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy now you are able now to see the importance of monitoring and evaluation. You are able to now assimilate the importance of monitoring and evaluation. And I hope that this is not only for Teacher Service Commission. We are not only looking at a bigger organization like TSC. We're also looking at how we can apply it even in our own institutions, in our own setups, in our own sectors, how we can use it even in our schools, in our offices where we are working, so that we are able to also employ data-driven decision-making, evidence-based decision-making, and at the same time, know that this monitoring and evaluation is very much key when it comes to accountability and also reliability of these information. So let's go to these components that we have discussed and see them in a framework. Now, I hope you can be able to see my framework, the logical framework, and we call it a logical framework. Some documents, some books, or some academia will call it log frames. They may call it log frames, logical framework. You could have, but of course they all mean the same, because it's about that logical flow, that sequential flow of these activities, these aspects. One being the input. You can see the input down there. We have the activities, we have the outputs, we have the outcome, the way they follow each other. We have objectives, and we have the goal. All this we have seen there. If you look at the first, we talked about the goal and the objective. Then we have outcome, output, activity, and input. These ones we brought them together into what we called the result chain. So the last four are components of the result chain. And then we have these two, goal and objective. But the other components, they must be there in the narrative. They must be there. Because when we are talking about goals, if you look at across, there's what we call horizontal logic and the vertical logic of this framework. So if you look at the vertical logic, we have the goal, objectives, outcome, output, activity, and inputs. That's the vertical logic. But when you are reading it, you should read from the bottom, because the bottom is the lowest. It's where we are now having the raw materials. And as you proceed upwards, the raw materials are processed all the way to when you have the intended outcome, which is the goal, the impact that you want to make in that particular intervention. And therefore, like I said, for every level of these aspects of result chain, there is an indicator. Look at it. Look at the next column. I'm sure my fonts could be small. I don't know how to make them bigger. Maybe I don't think I'll be able to make them because it's a bit crowded, but let's try to follow. Let's start with the inputs. What are the indicators of these inputs here? The intervention is to have improved quality of teaching and learning in secondary schools, to have improved quality of teaching and learning in secondary schools. That could be a ministerial program, and therefore the inputs, what the ministry will probably require in terms of resources is funds. You have to train trainers and facilitators, of course, training materials. There will be venues and ICT resources. All this will be used in training as resources. You could have more. You could add more because probably you also require transport for the trainers. You probably could require other things. But for the inputs, the indicators that we have require, the prerequisite inputs is that there is funding. We look at, is there funding? We also look at whether there is there are trainers and facilitators. Are they there? Then training materials, do you have them? They are tangible. They are things you can be able to see. And that's why we say indicators must be measurable. They must be tangible. Things that can be that are tangible, things that are measurable. So they can be quantitative and qualitative. Therefore, when you talk about funding, you could look at it from a quantitative aspect of it. What amount? Trainers and facilitators. How many trainers do you have? How many facilitators do you have? Training materials. You have venue and ICT resources. These are things that can be seen. If you look at from the inputs, or rather from the indicators, moving across, what we are calling, we move horizontally, we have means of verification. I'm sure you can be able to read that if you push your eyes very hard. I have to use 4 lenses, and I'm also struggling to see them. But for me, I will be able to know it is means of verification. That is at the top there, the blue line. And down there now going to where we have the inputs horizontally, we have now to know, to verify that we have funding through budget reports. We have to look at procurement records, that we had materials, we had trainers and facilitators. We have to have attendance sheets. In each of these inputs, we must have a means of verifying. Where are we going to get this data that we have enough funding? Where are we going to get this data that we have trainers and facilitators? They were there. How are we going to have data that we have training materials? How do we have that data that venues and ICT resources were there? It is through budget reports. It is through procurement records. It is through attendance sheets. All these should be able to show us what happened, or rather, how were these inputs, or whether they were being utilized. And then from means of verification, and I've said means of verification will sometimes be stroked with a source of data. Where do we source the data for inputs and so on and so forth? But we also say that having done the planning, having done the M&E framework, there is an aspect of risk. there is an aspect of risk, and this risk ought to be mitigated. And therefore, these are what we call assumptions. We are assuming that in this planning, in this framework, we are assuming that everything will be all right. And one of the things that we are assuming that will be all right is that funds for this training, funds for this exercise will be dispersed on time. We don't really know what this means when it comes to government programs and interventions. So you may want to achieve 100% transition, for example, in the senior school, and you have outlined all the inputs that you require. But when it comes to funding, if there will be delays in funding, then how effective will that one be? So as you do the planning in your monitoring and evaluation, you are assuming that funds will be dispersed on time. Then on activities, again, you also have the indicators on the activities. One of them, you will be looking at whether you conduct training needs assessment, whether that one was done, whether there is development of the capacity and professional development modules. Are they there? For example, I can assure you that in this monitoring and evaluation module, we have all the content. It is there. So if it is there, then it means the activity can be done. Facilitate in-service training workshops. Well, is it there? Can we be able to carry out that activity? Conduct classroom coaching and mentoring. These are things that you are going to observe, things that you will be able to witness firsthand as they happen. So that's why they are indicators. They are indicators of the activity. Then how will you get the data for the activities that were done? Or how will you verify that this exercise was done? The reports, the schedules, right? The logs and the reports of monitoring. So that's why every time you go for a seminar, for a workshop, that's where you find reports, somebody doing collecting attendance. These attendance, they are very, very, very important because, and even some taking photographs, they can be, they are very important for verifying that a certain activity was taken or was carried out. So again, we proceed. Ladies and gentlemen, let's agree that we started a bit late. We started late by half an hour. We may have to extend by just 10 or 15 minutes so that we recover our time. But I want to promise that on Friday, I'll try as much as possible not to be late. Those who were not there when we were starting, I apologized and said I got late. We got into an office where things went longer than we had intended. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, when it comes to outputs, you can read across. You can see there's indicators, there's means of verification, and the assumption. I said, when we are doing the components, we have the means of collecting data and the tools. We have also the responsibilities and roles, and we have also the reporting and data use and the report use. Let me say this. This is just the framework for the logical, that's the logical framework. We have other details. We may have other details capturing who does what, capturing who went to do the reporting, and how the report will be used. Besides now the framework that we have here, or beside the logical framework that we have here. So let's see the logical framework with vertical and horizontal logic. actually, basically, this is what I was explaining using that logical framework that I've just exited. And I've just talked about the vertical logic, which is about the result chain, about how these levels of intervention, that's the inputs, activity, output, outcome, impact, or goals. That's the vertical logic. It's the vertical logic that shows what we call the causal effect relationship. The causal effect relationship, whereby we have seen you have inputs, you have to put them into activities, then you have activities, you have to put them into outputs, and when the effectives are effectively and properly done, then they will lead to the next level, all the way to the outcome and all the way to the impact. Then we have the horizontal logic. That's measurement logic. And this is very important, measurement logic. When we talk about horizontal logic, which explains how success will be measured and verified at each level of the framework. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's where you could see means of verification. And when you look down at the means of verification, if it is the inputs, we have said for you to measure that there was some training that was done, you look at the reports, you look at the attendance list, and you're able to know this attendance list shows that 100 teachers attended the training. So therefore, if 100 teachers attended the training, that's a means of verification. Then what is the output? 100 teachers were trained, right? If 100 teachers were trained as an output, then you probably go and assess these teachers in class and see how they are delivering their lessons. If there is improvement of lesson delivery, maybe improvement of lesson delivery here will be looked in terms of preparation of the teacher, how they make their lesson plans, compared to how they made it before the intervention, how they are able to manage time, how they are able to probably do the learner-centered lesson. If they're able to do a learner-centered lesson, which they did not do before, then you would say the outcome is that there is an improved quality of the lesson, improved quality of the lesson. If there is improved quality of the lesson, then what will be the impact? What will be the long change? That there will be improved performance. There will be improved standard mean score. So you see, this is what we are calling logical framework. One thing done effectively well leads to another. That other well done, effectively done, leads to achievement of the other. And that way until you end up having your impact or goal that was intended for that particular intervention. So let's move to the next. See now this logical framework. I want us to look at another logical framework and now see this, what we are calling vertical and horizontal logic, and see how this horizontal logic is used as a measurement logic. Again, very small or very tiny fonts there. We have to squeeze it so that we are able to fit in our content. Is there any question so far? Any query, any clarification, any addition? Somebody probably is left behind. Somebody is lost in the bush and would want to be traced. We want to move together. What does that silence mean? That we are together? We are content so far?
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Janet, you are Janet?
Yes, sir.
Very well. We are together.
Thank you.
Make sure that you follow so that remember I'm depositing knowledge in you. There will be time to withdraw that knowledge. You see some thumbs up from somebody. And somebody is having an echo. Following, thanks. Thank you, Esther. Oh, there was a time I was breaking. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, we are together. Rabilo, Alfred, thank you for that. So yeah, let's look at the logical framework, or rather the horizontal logic and also the vertical logic. And I want us to start with the bottom there. Look at the, or rather, let's start with the vertical logic. Vertical logic, an input, training budget. We have community mobilizers, flyers, and venues. We have national, county, constituency funds, and school meals program. Those are the inputs. Now, logically, let's go to the activities. How do we put these resources that we have? How do we put them into practice, into activities? But before we even do all that, what is the objective of this, or rather, what is the goal of this intervention? Can somebody be able to trace where what is the intention of this intervention from what I have read? Train school leaders and teachers on a dropout prevention, conduct parent sensitization, expand bursaries and school feeding programs. Then output number 1, leadership and accountability is strengthened. Output number 2, we have financial barriers are reduced. Output number 3, we have parental and community engagement is enhanced. We have that one should be now to put, we have the output number 2. At least learners are supported. Then output number 1, learner tracking system is strengthened. Then the outcome of all that is that you have improved learner retention, and then the impact is improved access and continuity of junior school education. Now, is it making sense? If you look at somebody is saying the goal is to prevent dropout. Now, when you say you are preventing dropout, you are improving learner retention, isn't it? Yes, you're improving learner retention, but there is a broader goal than that, and that is improved access and continuity of junior school education. So what you have said there, Agnes, preventing dropout rate, it is part of the immediate or intermediate outcome is an intermediate goal. or result. It's an intermediate result. Output is immediate result. Outcome is intermediate. And then the impact is the ultimate or the broader objective or goal that is intended for that particular intervention. So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the way these are vertical or logical, vertical logic is outlined, you'll find that all the inputs are loaded into activities. All the activities are loaded into outputs. And you can see that's why this time around, I've decided to disaggregate the outputs into 5 of them. That once these activities has been done, immediately, these are the things that you'll be looking at as the immediate results, the 5 of them. These 5 results would probably lead to that singular outcome, and then the singular outcome will, at long term, lead to the improved access and accountability of junior school. Look at it also in every of these levels, there is what you need to look for as an indicator. Sometimes we call them objectively verifiable indicators. When we say objectively, it means it's not subjective. It's obvious. It is what can be observed. It is not subject to interference, but it is objective. It is objective. So therefore, no subject to interruption or interference, manipulation, and so on and so forth. Anybody will come and will do the assessment, and you'll find the same results. So therefore, somebody has talked about to gap high rate dropout in schools. That was the question on what is the title for this intervention, but we have seen it is actually derived from the impact. Now, how objective are these? Look at, let's look at each output at a time. Leadership and accountability strengthened. So what is the indicator that leadership and accountability has been strengthened? 100% schools submit timely retention reports. This is what we will tell you that leadership and accountability has been strengthened. Where are you going to get this data? Means of verification. It is from the sub-county monitoring and evaluation reports. Then output 4, financial barriers have been reduced. How are you going to verify objectively that these financial barriers has been reduced? What are you going to look for? You look at either there is greater or less than 95% of vulnerable learners receive bursary or feeding support. How are we able to verify that? Through bursary and feeding records. What are we assuming there? That there is timely disbursement of funds. There is the output number 5. The assumption is that there is effective supervision. So you see, all this, the issue of indicator is very, very, very important. The issue of means of verification is very important. So I said that the horizontal logic is mostly used for measurement. It is the measurement logic. And I want you to look at the aspect of measurement or measuring when you look at things horizontally. Somebody to tell us, for example, activities on training school leaders and teachers on dropout. If you look at it horizontally, how is it employing the measurement logic in indicators in means of verification? Can you see the aspect of measurement there? Somebody? If you can unmute, I don't know whether the muting has been done by the host.
No, they can unmute.
Just unmute and explain to me. If, for example, you are talking about the activities, if you look at it horizontally, look at the objectively verifiable indicators, or what we call OVIs, are they having an aspect of measurement? If it is means of verification, is there a means of measurement? Is there an aspect of a measure? Is it quantifiable, in other words?
Yes, Mwalim, it is conferable because we can see, like, for example, in the activities we have the of teachers trained, so we are quantifying the number.
Yeah, that hash represents number.
Then we have again forums held. How many were they? So we are still quantifying. The amount of bursary funds we are quantifying. So it's measuring the.
Then move on to the next to means of verification along the same line. That's horizontally.
So
training reports. Is there an aspect of measure?
We are measuring the quality, yes.
Training reports.
We have financial records. We also measuring what was used.
Yes.
And what was allocated. So it measures all through the horizontal logic we are measuring. Then we have adequate resources provided. We are still measuring the amount of resource that were provided. Was it enough? Was it relevant? Yes. So it brings up the sense of measuring.
There is a sense of measuring in all the levels.
Horizontal.
And all horizontal, along the horizontal logic. So again, if you look at the outputs, somebody else, look at the output number 5, show us the aspect of measure in all the levels horizontally. You want to bring in all of us who at least to participate. Remember, we said this is experiential learning where we want to experience firsthand of what is happening. It's not just listening to the teacher.
You can see.
Yes.
They are talking about 100%. So that one, it indicates that it can be measured. That let us say
it's a measure, it's a quantity.
So it's measurable. Then as you move, you can see reports. So in those reports that you are going to get from the sub-county, you can be shown like how many submitted how many the retention rate. You can be updated with those reports.
Yes. Okay, the assumptions, that one let's not focus so much on the assumptions, but you will be able to see effective supervision.
It's not measurable.
So let's now move all the way up to the impact now. We want to see how is the aspect of impact measurable horizontally. We are talking about improved access and continuity of junior school education. Let's have somebody else.
You can see there, it's talking about increased to 90. So you can you can measure from the last retention rate. Let us say it was 82 to 90 to 98. So you can say that it is measurable. It increased from a certain number to a certain percent to a new percent 98.
Yes.
Then as you go to means of verification, you can see they have listed there NEMIS. So
What is
normally
NEMIS?
NEMIS is the National Education Management System. So it can show the number.
The
Like
data,
for example,
yes.
in a school setup, it shows that this capitation was sent for this certain number of students. So measurable. Like you had 20, so the capitation came for 20 students.
Very well. Good. So, and also about the education sector reports. Reports are things that are tangible. It's something that you can be able to see. It's something that you can have evidence through observation. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the logical, the vertical logic and the horizontal logic in a log frame. I said a log frame is critical, it's key in monitoring and evaluation. If you look at this log frame, ladies and gentlemen, you will be able to tell me, to witness that this is a whole program that has been reduced into a small structure that you can now be able to look at and see, what are we doing? What is intended on us? Who is supposed to, of course, there will be details. This is a log frame. It's a matrix. There will be details in a framework. Of course, you'll have a place for introduction. You'll have a place for objectives. You have a place for data collection methods. You have a place, but this will be now the log frame, the matrix that will represent the whole program, the interventions that are intended, and then the inputs that you probably will require, the activities that you require to do, the outputs that you'll be looking for, the outcomes that you'll be monitoring, you'll be assessing as you proceed with the intervention. It brings down this to one page. The whole program is brought, or whole project is brought into only one page, which will be very easy for monitoring when the process is going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the next. We are finishing now. I know some of us may probably be doing other activities, but I want to give an activity. One, I want you to identify components of an M&E framework, and then you develop activities, expected outputs for an education program. For example, I've just given an example, improving girls' completion rate in senior schools. And you develop qualitative and quantitative indicators. You also develop source of data and the assumption. So that means that you do a log frame whereby you are focusing on improving girls' completion rate in senior schools. That will be the impact that you want to produce, or rather, that is the goal that you want to achieve. You develop 3 activities that will help us to do that. Of course, you draft the outputs. Definitely, there will also be inputs, because there can be activities without inputs. Then the outputs, and then, of course, indicators for each of them. You look at the source of data for each level and the assumptions. If you can be able to do that, that can help you in understanding what we have discussed. At the same time, where you probably will have shortfalls in developing this framework, you probably will be able now to come and seek assistance on Friday when we meet together. That will be the first activity. I know there is a second activity. Yeah, there is another activity. Participants are given the goal improving teaching quality in national schools and asked to develop a log frame with horizontal and also the vertical logics. Actually, these are the same things, just for practice on how to do the log frames. Because like I said, the log frame, the matrix that basically brings the whole M&E framework onto one page. You're able to visualize the whole monitoring and evaluation framework on a single page. So, ladies and gentlemen, I had promised to end slightly before 8. It is 7:54, 5. I hope we can end our session there. If you have any question, we can get the questions now. Isaac, thank you. Who is that? Thank you. Thank you, Janet, Patricia, Esther. Great. Any question? Probably any clarification before we end?
How are we going to present these activities after doing?
I'm sure there is that LMS. There is that LMS where you are supposed to do all your assignment. But for this one, let's when we meet next time. When we meet next time, we will try. I'll try to pick at random each one of you and see what presentation they have. Okay. So also try to see how we can bring you on board so that you can be able to share what you'll be having. So let's get ready with our M&E framework, the log frames, so that next time, if I ask you to do the presentation, you just share what you have. You'll be assisted by the ICT person who will be on standby to help us. Yes, Square, you have a question?
I'm still asking on the examples of monitoring and evaluation.
Maybe I can add on that.
Yes.
Dr.
Yes. Please go on.
So I was asking on the examples of monitoring and evaluation framework. Can we also categorize the service charter in some of our institutions as an example of monitoring and evaluation framework?
The service charter.
Yes.
You want to use that as a monitoring and evaluation tool?
Yes, as a framework. Yeah.
Now, probably what you can do, you can apply monitoring and evaluation. All right.
Yes.
Right, to monitor and to evaluate whether you are abiding to that service charter. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the service charter itself is not a monitoring framework, but you can apply monitoring and evaluation to assess whether the service charter is effective, is being followed, whether there is contention, people are contented with the service charter that you have. Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah. And even
Thank
somebody
you.
had asked about the Safaricom issue, and I think I tried to bring it in so that you can be able to relate the monitoring and evaluation in it. When I talked about somebody identified a gap, and the solution was to sell the solution was to probably look for resources to make the traffic jam, reduce it, widen the roads, and to get the resources. One of them was the Safaricom selling the Safaricom shares. How monitoring and evaluation is brought in is probably to see whether the intended outcome is being achieved through the mechanisms, through the activities that had been laid down. Because then there should be the output, which is selling the shares, the outcome, which is the amount of shares that has been sold, and the amount of resources that has been collected, and then the outcome, the roads that will be constructed, and then the impact, the reduction of traffic jam. Such a thing. It is very easy to apply M&E in everything, in every aspect of life in our day-to-day activities. So Aquila, are you around? If Aquila is around, I would suggest that we end the class. It's 8.
I'm around.
I hope you are with us all through.
Yeah, I was with you. I wanted to add something about the assignments. It's mandatory you visit the e-learning platform. Unit 1 is already up, so you're supposed to tackle the activities that are there. The notes are already uploaded for Unit 1. Unit 2 will be active within the weekend.
So you have responded to that question about where they are going to do the activity.
Yes.
Very well. I hope everyone has heard. But Aquila, can we be able to have one presentation next time of that assignment? Can I be able to probably bring one learner on board to do the sharing?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Thank you. So participants, you can probably be ready. I can pick one of you to do the sharing so that we can learn from it. Thank you so much. Aquila, I think we can call it a day. And have a good night, everyone.